Hi everyone, I'm Wendy. Welcome back to Show Me Mo Vegan and another What I Eat in a Day video. If you're loving these What I Eat in a Day videos, go ahead and let me know in the comments and hit the thumbs up. Today I'm doing something a little bit different because I'm going to be cooking all recipes out of this cookbook, the 30-Day Alzheimer's Solution by Dean and Ayesha Sherzai, also known as the Brain Docs. I forgot to mention this while I was recording, but this idea came from someone in the comments. So be sure to leave your ideas below and then subscribe because I just might use your idea for my next video. I'll cover some of their healthy living recommendations throughout the video, but first let me get you up to speed with what I've done so far today. I started my day with a quick meditation. I've been meditating for several years and I try to do at least a 10-minute meditation every day. Lately, I've only been doing it maybe 4 or 5 days a week, but I'm pretty consistent with that. My favorites are body scan meditations, so that's what I'm doing here today. And meditation falls under one of the Sherzai's core concepts called Unwind. I'll go into the details in a little bit. It's Saturday, which is usually when I stock up on groceries, so after my meditation, I went to the store and got all kinds of goodies. After putting everything away, it's time for breakfast. I'm having this overnight oatmeal from the cookbook, which is really nice because I made it last night, so breakfast is really quick this morning. The Sherzai's recipes use quite a bit of higher fat foods like nuts and seeds and avocados, more than I typically consume. And those are all great and wonderful healthy foods, but I personally limit my intake because if I eat too much, my acne flares up. And it also affects my menstrual cycle negatively. So I just adjusted their recipes to cut back a little bit. For example, they included a nut butter, and I just omitted that. Along with my oats, I'm using this smoothie bowl recipe as a template, but I'm just going to make a regular smoothie instead of a bowl. Again, I'm adjusting it since I already have the nuts and seeds in my oatmeal. I'm omitting what they call for in the smoothie. This is pretty similar to my regular smoothie. I'm adding greens, banana, mango, and pineapple, and they call for fresh ginger and turmeric. I'm just using powdered turmeric because that's all I have, but I do have fresh ginger which I keep in my freezer. I talked about that in my kitchen tour, which I posted recently. Check it out if you missed it. The smoothie was pretty good, very similar to my normal smoothie. And I've had similar overnight oatmeal before, but it's been a while. This was a really nice treat. I definitely recommend that recipe. Saturday is also when I post new videos to YouTube. So I like to watch my own new video while I eat breakfast, just to make sure all my links are working correctly. By the way, if you didn't catch this cherry cheesecake video I posted, you'll definitely want to watch that. It's one of my absolute favorite desserts and it's so easy to make. After breakfast, I jump right into washing all my produce, so it's ready to go for me all week. And then I started making my lunch. But before I show you that, let's go ahead and cover the Sherzai's lifestyle recommendations for keeping our brains healthy. To make it easy to remember, they use the acronym NEURO to describe their core concepts or pillars of healthy living. This stands for nutrition, exercise, unwind, restore, and optimize. I already mentioned unwind. This concept relates to the fact that modern humans live very stressful lives, and we need to take the time to unwind. One way to do this is meditation, like I mentioned earlier. But some other activities they suggest are journaling, mindful breathing, listening to music, or really any activities that help you find a sense of calm. Of all these pillars, nutrition is probably the most important in my opinion. The Sherzais recommend a whole food, plant-based diet that includes their NEURO 9 foods. If you're familiar with Dr. Greger, you've probably heard of his Daily Dozen. And as we go through them, you'll see that the NEURO 9 is very similar. I did a video on the Daily Dozen if you want some more details. And I hope that you see from all of these videos I've been making lately that all of these different doctors are essentially saying the same thing. So the NEURO 9 is green leafy vegetables like kale, Swiss chard, arugula, and spinach. Whole grains such as oats, brown rice, and barley. Seeds, and they particularly emphasize flax and chia. Beans and legumes, including chickpeas, tempeh, tofu, and all varieties of beans and lentils. Berries, nuts, cruciferous veggies such as broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage. Tea, including green, white, and black. And finally, herbs and spices, especially turmeric, but all spices are fair game. So far today, I've checked off leafy greens, whole grains, seeds, nuts, berries, herbs and spices, and I'm getting ready to drink my daily cup of tea. I drink decaffeinated ground sencha from Say Me Tea, which I've talked about before. It's like matcha, but produced in a different way, and this one is decaffeinated. In addition to a plant-based diet that incorporates the NEURO 9 foods, they recommend avoiding all foods high in saturated fat, which includes animal products as well as things like coconut oil and palm oil. They also suggest avoiding refined carbohydrates and sugars, reducing salt and instead seasoning with more herbs and spices, avoiding processed foods, drinking water, and eating homemade meals. Speaking of homemade meals, let's take a look at lunch, and we'll see how many more of the NEURO 9 I can check off. For lunch, I'm having their falafel wraps. They call for whole wheat lavash bread, but I can't find that where I live, so instead I'm using these whole wheat pita pockets. This falafel was really easy to make, simply mixing everything in a food processor and then baking them. And while that baked, I mixed up the sauce and chopped the veggies to go with it. Since I had the oven on, I also decided to make their spelt blueberry scones. Again, I made some adjustments. They call for monk fruit to sweeten it, but I'm just using date sugar. And I'm taking the option to use applesauce instead of oil. The Sherzais do include extra virgin olive oil as a food to include sparingly in your diet. Oil is definitely a hot topic in the whole food plant-based world. I personally tend to fall on the side of avoiding it completely. But there are some doctors who do recommend limited amounts of olive oil in particular. The falafel didn't stick together very well and were pretty crumbly, but they still tasted good. And I loved the sauce that went with it because it has za'atar in it, which is an amazing little spice blend. So I had my pita pockets, but that's not quite enough food for me, so I also just made a salad with the same fillings. And with this meal, I checked off some more of the NEURO 9 foods. This lunch included more seeds, nuts, herbs and spices, and whole grains. Plus, I had kale, so I can check off cruciferous, and chickpeas, so I can check off another bean. I also got berries again in the blueberry scones. I've never made scones before, but I think these turned out okay. They don't exactly taste like scones to me. It's almost more like a blueberry bread, but it was still really good. Then after my lunch had time to digest, I moved on to exercise. The Sherzais recommend moderate exercise that includes strength, cardio, and flexibility. Today, I'm doing some yoga, which combines a little bit of all of those things. Then my mom and sister came over to visit, and we went for a walk. So that counts as more exercise, and it also brings up another letter in the NEURO acronym, optimize. Optimize includes spending quality time with family and friends. This category also includes really using and stretching your brain through learning new activities. After our walk, it was time to make my dinner. I'm making the Sherzai's Greens and Grains Power Bowl. This one includes whole grains from quinoa, legumes from peas, more cruciferous with broccoli, and more nuts, herbs, and spices. Along with my dinner, I'm also having some cantaloupe that I got in my CSA this week. There's nothing quite like fresh, local cantaloupes in the summertime. The last part of the acronym that we need to cover is RESTORE. This refers to good quality sleep. Sleep is so important because it's when our brains do a lot of cleanup work. So if you're not sleeping well, that's not happening, and your brain can suffer for it. The best way to ensure good quality sleep is to have a routine. So trying to go to bed and wake up at the same time, and avoiding screens like your TV, computer, and phone screens right before bed. So with that said, I'm going to turn the camera off, try to set my phone aside, and relax for a couple hours before bed. So what did you think of my day incorporating the NEURO 9? And what about you? Do you incorporate any of these lifestyle habits into your day? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. This concept relates to the fact that modern